So my first, I'd say this is the kind of the work I did with you, David. I had a show at the Everson Museum, and I painted all these objects on floors. I thought that the photorealism, I had all this skill, and I was trying to figure out a way to use it. There was photorealism everywhere, but I thought, well, I'm gonna, it was really shiny, and I was, it was like gumball machines and real technical masturbation of windows, reflections, and and shiny, bright things. And I was sort of thinking, well, I'll do the opposite of that. I'll just start taking pictures because I was a photography major and a painter. I'll just start taking pictures and paint them myself. So this is just a 2x4 on a linoleum floor that I put down. And then I got this bright idea. If you look at both of these, this is really early work. This is the 70s. And it was just a piece of plywood and then this curled paper that I used to put the backing of the linoleum down on my wooden floor. But I thought, oh, I'm going to be brilliant. I will photorealist. I'll just paint the photos. I'll paint black and white photos, thinking I was so smart and everyone's going to love this work. And if you recall the last two paintings, there is the photo that I took. So I painted the black and white photos, and I went around to the different galleries, and they said, oh yeah, you're a photorealist, but a really boring one. And nobody was all interested. I couldn't get this, go away, basically. And I thought I was so smart. I made these at this point, and it's hard to believe, but at this point in the 70s, the only photography you saw was black and white. I mean, nobody was painting color. So I took an 8x10 and I made it 11x13 or something. And I just painted these things that we know exist, but you never saw a picture of. But I left the raw canvas around it, so you knew it was a painting. And I left it really raw. So, and I just, stapled them to the wall, basically. So here are some of them, and some of them are marbles. I always wanted to make something that exists, but you never saw a picture of. And marbles were a big deal for photorealists. People were really, getting off on making these really realistic marbles. And I was using really boring marbles. And then I did a black and white picture, and then I changed, and then I just took the painting and put it on the wall and made a picture of that with the tape holding it down. So I was trying to think of myself as being a conceptual photorealist. So that was not, that didn't come across. Nobody liked it. And so I was desperate to get attention. So I did something that I don't recommend, and I always talk about when I do these talks, is I thought, well, my entire life, I was told to loosen up. I mean, I'm University of Florida, ABEX owned it. They hated pop art. They hated conceptual art. So I ended up making these paintings of food because I wanted to make a TV commercial. This is my first big show with Simon Watson that you might have seen, David.
Right.
And what my whole idea was, it was right when Jeff Koons was getting a lot of attention, and I thought, well, I'll let the paint drip. And I turned all my images that I took photos of it, or I got out of magazines, I turned them into Velox, which was a dot screen. And so I would paint the images underneath, and then I had assistants painting the paintings themselves, the dot screen. So if there's a close-up, and it was all food being torn apart. And I called, this is like David will remember, maybe some anyone older, but late night TV had porn, called 900 for escort services and things like that. So I called this 100 food porn, and I had no money, but I actually bought time on David Letterman, Arsenio Hall, and Nightline, because nobody knew it at the time. And this was really late night TV. Everyone thinks that's $100,000 or something, but it actually cost
in which our effort in the Middle East collapses.
Let me ask you just to take a break for a second. We've got to take a quick break, and I'll come back and let you continue that thought when we continue our conversation with Henry Kissinger and James Webb in a moment.
So there might be questions about the TV commercial, and I'll just say it real quick. I had no money, so I traded all of those little paintings for all the production, the director, the sound person, everybody.
Amazing.
And, right after that, I saw the Mike Kelly show at Metro Pictures, and they had you know, these stuffed animal sculptures and stuffed animal paintings, and I thought they were just brilliant. And he had these Afghan unraveled Afghan on the floor with stuffed animals, and a big table with a bunch of melted candles on it. And I thought to myself, if a female artist made this work, nobody would pay any attention. But here was this intellectual from California who literally was mining, you know, felt banners, mining like a 12-year-old girl's life, or mall culture, or stuff, you know, pathetic things that you had in your attic. And he sewed these stuffed animals together to make paintings. And I thought, well, what subject matter do you know, women never do? I mean, this is like somebody mining a young girl. What do we do? What do we do that no one's ever done? And all I thought of was, well, porn, of course. But then I thought, well, I knew Carolee Schneemann and I knew Judy Bernstein, and they were sort of softcore at the time, or at least that's all I ever saw. I didn't know Betty Tompkins' work at all. So I thought, well, no, I have to do hardcore. If I'm going to do this, I have to do hardcore porn. So this was in 1990 and 89, 90, 92. And it was the middle of, well, it was the beginning of cancel culture or political correctness, at least in my generation. And I was a pro-sex feminist, and so I was not in step with the times, even though I thought that everyone thought like I did. I was so shocked by the reaction I got, because here I am, you know, doing clinical defense at Planned Parenthood and being called a traitor to feminism. And I thought all the images I was using were funny, and so or compelling. So I was feeling really beat up. I got terrible reviews. Galleries dropped me. People stopped talking to me, and so I was feeling really beat up. So I started beating up my painting with a belt sander. But I said, well, if you think this is bad, what do you see this? Oh, I don't have those images in here. Okay, so anyway, I sort of stopped letting the paint drip. I sort of went back to this technique that I developed. And I was just, you know, playing around and making paintings of things that I thought of. Yeah, they're images that you know exist, but you've never seen a picture of. So I started working with enamel paint, which is what I'd been painting with since the 90s, and actually late 80s, I should say, 85. And there I was working with enamel, and I thought I could get a richness that I couldn't get with oil or acrylic. So this is I started making paintings of things you know exist, but you've never seen pictures of. And here is, you know, armpit hair growing. So there are things that exist, but you've never seen. And this is, you know, you pull down your sock and there will be lines in your legs. So this is where, you know, and I took a lot of these pictures, or I got them from magazines. And I thought, well, I'm back to what my gift is this way of being able to copy things. But, you know, realistic painting has been around for thousands of years. So how do I make it significant, like that you could see my vision for my gift? And it took a while to figure that out, you know, but I thought, well, you know, I was working with close-ups, and I was really interested in close-up. I took these photographs. This is called Treasure Trail. And I was working with like wet images and showers and dirty feet. I thought, well, there's this, well, I guess if you dance all night, your feet will get dirty. So I thought, no one's ever seen a picture of that. I should go back, because before this happened, right around here, I showed the pictures of my mother. And this is, I think, important to my career. This is like 1995. I showed pictures of my mother, and all of a sudden, people saw these photos of my mom and they said, oh, wow, she comes from dysfunction, so she must be a real artist, this whole cliche. And it was how I got let back into the art world. And I saw Jeff Koons getting kicked out too, but he got back in because he did The Puppy in Dusseldorf. And I watched Madonna get slut shamed for making that book Sex. And she got back into her career by making the movie, oh, I forgot the name of it, about Argentina. What was the name of that movie, David? Do you remember? The famous woman.
Yeah.
Don't cry for me, Argentina. So, I did, so all of a
Imelda
sudden.
no, I'm thinking of Imelda Marcos. Brain freeze, sorry.
Well, somebody will remember it. So it was like, all of a sudden people were taking me seriously again. So, and this is about like kind of I had my first show at the Everson Museum when David was a curator. And 33 years later, I got asked I could not get arrested in New York. And I got asked to have a one-person show at SF MoMA, which you had just left, I think.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not even sure, but yeah, Madeline Greenstein was
I'd hired Madeline, right.
And so it was 33 years later. So it's okay though. I mean, I talk about the few things when I do these talks. I was a teacher, so I survived by teaching, and I love to teach. So I still teach. I teach at SVA, and so it was tough, not getting much attention for so long, but it's a blessing and the curse. I saw it as nobody cared what I did, so I got to do whatever I wanted. So I made these giant pictures of Dirty Heels, and it was at this very same time.
Ava Perón.
Pardon me?
Ava Perón.
Yeah, that's it, Ava Perón. I think yeah.
That's how slow my mind's working.
Ava, it was, yeah, what was it called though, the movie? It wasn't Ava Perón, but that is her name.
Yeah, Evita, of course.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I have this, I did these billboards all over Lower Manhattan with Creative Time. So I was in the Whitney Biennial. It was almost like this explosion of attention, and it was brand new. And so I just thought, well, I was youngish, but it was like really terrific. I felt really like enjoying every minute of it. And I just I started to work with working with fashion and glamour. And I thought, there's two things I always think about. And when you were talking about where I work in that foggy area, I think of it as, well, for number one, nobody has politically correct fantasies. And two, their subject matter, and I'm interested in this, that subject matter that we have nothing but contempt for, which is pornography or fashion or glamour. But frankly, there would be no internet without pornography. And fashion and glamour gives people a lot of pleasure. Magazines give people a lot of pleasure. And at the same time, it creates body dysmorphia. And at the same time, it's the one place where women really have power. I mean, we're not talking about minor industries here. We're talking about billion-dollar industries, the engines of the culture that the culture has nothing but contempt for and thinks that it's very shallow. It's especially pornography. And so I thought this was something that I was very interested in. Why can't we have all these opposite ideas in the same vision? So like I was thinking when I shot this, I was thinking no one ever sees freckles, and this was in the 90s. Nobody would, it's like changes the meaning if you see this glamorous makeup on somebody with freckles. So it makes you think twice. It changes it somehow. It's not this, lily white skin. And then I thought of same thing with freckles and pimples. You just never see a picture of them. So I was just still working with glamour and fashion, but I was not cleaning it up. I wasn't photoshopping it. I was doing the opposite. You know, just freckles. This is a models. I was always looking with mixed race models. Every one of my models pretty much is mixed race, unless it's a because I think that is the future, and unless it's a commission. So I loved painting freckles because you never saw them, even though this is what, you know, they're, you know, probably, I don't know, a quarter of white people are freckled, red-haired freckled, or I don't know what the statistics are, but you never see pictures of them. And it sort of somehow changes the fashion if you put freckled bodies in things. And the same with this is where I'm getting towards glass. I started blowing up bubbles and seeing what that looks like with, you know, maybe the model's nails are kind of, so I started making pictures, paintings of these things. And here's oh, I should stop this for, well, I'll let this go. It's one fingerprint, and then here's the whole painting. And it's sort of a way to see how that's the actual painting. Someone did that in my studio. I thought it was such a cool thing to show. So I like showing it. But this is freckles and blowing up bubbles. So then this came to, and this is, I guess, we're still in the Audis. Same thing. Oh yeah, this is where I started thinking in terms of what would it look like to paint with your tongue. And because I got out the subway on Houston Street, and I saw somebody with a bag with a paint on the tongue, yeah, yellow paint. So I had all these models shoot. Well, they were actually for I got commissioned to do ads for MAC Cosmetics, but my models I picked were women with the longest tongues I could find. And so I just basically piggybacked, you know, all this art off of the MAC Cosmetics shoot. And so whenever they were changing the eye makeup, I'd say, can you come over and lick this candy? So this is like a 15-foot painting. I started making these really giant paintings of behind glass. And here's the, can you hear this? Can you hear this at all, David?
No, not the sound of the video.
Yeah, this is
Very, very low.
that I made to go in.
Now it's a little low and distorted, but the image looks great.
Okay, well, there's definitely sound, and it's the same thing. I was trying to make an ad for between movie trailers, so I made this to go, and Landmark put it in there on their screen between. I thought, well, I'll advertise the show at a movie theater, and this was a show. I did it both in LA and New York, and this is called. Well, MoMA bought this actually and put it in their lobby for over a year, and so did Green Pink Caviar. That's the name of it, and it was at Reagan Projects in LA. And Madonna bought it, and it was the backdrop for her Sticky and Sweet tour, because she was one of my collectors, which I didn't know, and then I got to know her, and we bonded over being thrown out of our respective worlds. So I started painting. This is my friend, Wangeshi Mutu, who wanted me to document her pregnancy. She was 8 months pregnant. We were just fooling around. And we were working with this silver and gold paint. It wasn't paint, though. It was vodka and food coloring. And she was, yeah, she was very, I guess she was much bold. She's very prudish, and she was putting it in her mouth and spitting it out. And I just kept taking pictures. And I got so many paintings out of this, of her just putting some of this vodka gold paint in her mouth and spitting it out. I thought they looked great. And then this is just getting bigger. This is another 15-footer. Just everything you see now is behind screens, and it's a way for me to it was a way for me to own an image, make realistic paintings, but work in metaphor and the way to distort things. And that's where this is, what the work you see now, the last few years. By the way, I don't know if you have any students watching this, but
Yeah, sure.
pardon?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, when, everybody who does these webinars with you or, whatever, anything like this happens at SVA, we are showing you the very best things we've ever done. I could have 200 other slides here that were failures. So whenever you see this, I want my students to know this. We're always showing you the very best we can do. And
Yeah, learning how to edit is an important skill, isn't it?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah. So this is something to remember.
If you don't mind me interrupting you for a second, we have a question from one of the people in the webinar, which was, do you think you would have been taken seriously if you hadn't blown up those photos into paintings? In other words, just being simple photos.
Well, photos were boring and they never, the photos were, if ever I used a photo in this time, I never talked about this. That's interesting. All these, this is a photo. And then the one before is a painting. This is Photoshopped, like 85 layers of Photoshop. This is just a photo without doing anything. So whenever I took a photo that I wouldn't do anything to, then I turned it into a photo. But the paintings were, this is a year and a half's worth of work. And they're layers and layers and layers of paint, and it's about 1,000 times richer. This is something, that it's hard. I understand with the question because you're so used to digital world, but we're like old-fashioned painters here. I have a team now that we work, doing layers, and I heard new people that are beginners, and they're the first layer. There's just layers of paint on top that make a richness and a depth that I can't get in photography. So that breaks my heart, but painting craft is like, I'm still want to use it, even though I use, I don't have it, I'm not at all afraid of technology. I'm still an old-fashioned painter, if you know what I mean. This is a photo. It's just not as rich or beautiful. Oh, here's another. You can't hear this either, right?
Let me see. No.
Oh, so heartbreaking. Well, this is called Smash. And it was my show at the Brooklyn Museum. This is a fun story. It's too bad you can't hear the sound because the guy who did the sound worked for Rock Nation. And Jay-Z was, not Jay-Z, but Beyonce was one of my collectors. And he sent this kid over to do the sound for this video I made called Smash that was at the Brooklyn Museum. And the next thing I know, the kid's getting a Grammy for Childish Bambino. And then his name is Ludwig Göransson. And the next thing I know, he's getting an Oscar for the sound for Black Panther. So now he wouldn't even return my phone calls, I'm sure. But he was working on, he did it at night on 2 nights. And I gave him an inkjet. So this was I love that story about Ludwig. So, okay, so then.
Well, what was this? Can you describe that sound? What was it? Was it music and the sound of the glass breaking, or?
Oh, no. If you go on the web, on YouTube, you could find the sound.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right, here's how, so this is how my technique, how I work. So I had this picture, at the top picture, a photograph I took in 1999, 2000. And then I decided I wanted to see what, I wanted to look, like when you're coming, I was just driving from the airport and looking at these old billboards that were smashed or had graffiti on them. And I thought, what is that? What would that look like? So I took this photo and I put a piece of glass in front of it and I shot it. And this was the finished painting. I'll show you how, this is another one. Same thing. I had an assistant that used to be a graffiti artist. So he did graffiti on the glass, but, and there's a whole bunch of them. These are big 12-foot, 15-foot paintings that were at my show in Reagan Projects. And Here's another one, and then I'll show you the technique, a whole, this is like a big painting. And it started off, this is the bones. Oh, that's the photo that it started with. I put this photo, tacked it onto the wall. This is a photo from the 90s. And then I put glass on top and we did graffiti on top. And then that was the bones. And then I changed the right side, the circle inside the right side. And then that was the next version of it. And then I this is the sad part. I painted the entire left side, but it looked so boring. So I changed it, painted this side. So left side changed. Then here's like the bones of it. Here's the finished painting. So they never start off, like none of them ever start off the way from the bones of the photo. We change it so much. This is a photo. I did this whole thing about breathing on glass and breath of life. How do you see life? This is the only way I could make a picture of it. How do you see breath frosting up glass? And this is a big painting. And oh yeah, and then I had these kids working for me who were talking about, here's what happened. You remember Neville Wakefield, the curator, David?
Sure.
At one time he got hired to be the editor of Playboy. I know it's hard to believe, but and he said, well, Marilyn, what can you do for us? And I said, well, I know these kids that are lasering their pubic hair. And so I think I should make a picture of pubic hair, like all races and all colors. And so they just try and, it's not so horrible, you don't have to laser it all off, dye it green or shave all you want, but lasers forever and fashion is fleeting. So I made all these pictures and Playboy hated them, but they spent all this money having models grow out their pubic hair, all different races, colors. So every single one of these shoots was a $10,000 shoot. And they said, here, take them, we don't care. So I got all these images. So I thought, well, I'll make paintings, I'll make pictures that are so beautiful, maybe I could convince young people to not laser. So these are some of those paintings. And I talk about this all the time because nobody bought them for years.
No, I remember when you were talking about pubic hair pride. Yeah.
Well, years. I mean, I couldn't give them away, but I still have them. And these are big paintings, but they just started buying them, recently. So I don't know what to say. Maybe, and I wanted to make pubic hair so beautiful that you could put it on top of your couch in the living room. So from the pubic hair paintings, that I thought women never paint bathers. They're always, they're allegorical paintings from the Renaissance or, Apollo surprising Daphne in the stream, or they're, Degas or Manet, painting odalisques, and but women never painted other women grooming. So I decided to make a 21st century bather, and that's a big mouth, and that was my show in at Reagan. And this was my last show where I was thinking of the bathers. I was thinking of the pre-Raphaelites, and I started working with these redheads because they made Ophelia, and there's I have no problem with it. But there's a way, all these odalisques, and this is like the trajectory of how the painting started. So this is also a way to describe my technique. These are the redheads. And I started painting armpit hair too, because
you were a redhead when we first met.
I was, yeah, I still am. It turned brown. Didn't turn gray, weird as that is. Yeah, it turned stupid brown instead of red. And here's a painting, I call it Lilith, because it took me 3 years to make. It was such a torture. So the painting on the right.
What was difficult? What was so hard about it?
Well, I started with the painting on the right. I totally finished it. It took about a year. And I kept looking at it and I thought it's so boring. And I kept working on it. I just kept working on it. And then I ended up with the painting on the left. So I had to repaint the whole thing. So it took 3 years. So here's the trajectory, the very first on the top right, left, sorry, and then the trajectory of all the different variations. And yeah, I mean, this is how
Wow.
long it took. Yeah, I don't even know the dates, really, months, I guess. And there's the finished painting. So it's a lot better, you know, when I first started. I have, you know, I change them. If they're in my studio, I'll just keep changing them. So this is my last show in April. I had it Salon 94, which used to be LGDR, which I called Large Doctor, but now they're split up again, and now it's Salon 94 and LGD. So here are some of the bathers. And I took these punk kids covered in tattoos, you know, to make these bather paintings. But I wanted it to look 21st century. And this is the curator, Jasmine Wahi. She teaches at SVA. And she's such a beauty, and she was happy to pose for me. Oh, here's another video. When Trump won, I had to make something about, we're going to be called cunts, and I was going to shove it down your throat. So also you're not going to hear the sound, but here's the video I made. Got to get better at this technically. You can't hear the sound at all, right, David?
Not at all, no.
Not at all. Unbelievable. It sort of ruins it. This is Arlene Sheckett's son, Max. He did
I
this.
hear a little bit in the background now. But it's not connected properly on your computer somehow.
But you hear something. Yeah, this is just like the other ones. They're just sort of snippets from the video. So I had all these people change the writing, like My Country to the V, it's called, or No Country for Old Men, or Au Contraire. And people got to pick what they wanted to write. So Eileen Miles wrote, I think maybe Eileen's in here, or Arlene, or Alison Gingerus, or I even had these teenagers. That do and so anyway, it's a 5-minute video, which also nobody would ever buy. That's
was that as a fundraiser, or did you just
no, I did it because I thought it was beautiful.
I
love
it. Did you sell them?
Oh no. I didn't sell this video, and I didn't until recently sell any of the bush paintings. And then here's the drinking fountain that I made. I use this model all the time. You just saw her in the video too. She's just amazing looking. And I made a video where I made a video drinking fountain. So if you, and it works. So this I'm selling. And I think there might be a video here a little bit. Yeah, you can't hear it either, right?
No.
Okay. This is what it looks like when you go to drink water. And I made, it's so you have something to look at when you're drinking out of a drinking fountain. But you don't have to put water in it, because you can put in wine too. And I had them on every floor of my show.
Does the drinking fountain have sound?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But you can't hear it.
No.
Yeah, it's beautiful music. Yeah, my assistant's brother is a musician, and he made the sound. And this is just a snippet. I'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is that was my last show, and this is a 20-foot painting, 10 by 20, and it took 2 years actually. And this is one of the bush paintings. I think I might have a couple, but this is the first one that ever sold. Yeah, well, actually a couple more very brave collectors who have it over their couch, but nobody knows what it is. So that's the show. And I don't remember these are the bathers. Okay, now these are some of the bathers. Oh, and then that's Jasmine Wahi, who's my odalesque. I wanted my odalesque to have agency. I guess that's what we call it. And I have not, this was tits and ass for the 18th century, which I have no problems with, but I love painting breasts. But I wanted to have all my models after Manet or after the Rokeby Venus or after Titian's painting of Venus. I think
about Courbet and your bush paintings, of course.
yeah, well, Courbet, of course. And I wanted my models to have agency. So this is what we're doing. And this is Lizzo, who's one of my odalisques, who's I'm painting this now, but this is not the painting. This is the reference to work from. We're still a year away from finishing it. And then I started doing, and I also started doing my heroes. I started making paintings of people I admire. Do you know who this is?
I'm not even going to guess.
It's Roxane Gay.
Oh, actually, I did think that it looked like her stare.
Well, her side eye. I wanted to get her side eye. When I shoot these people, they can't see me. They can't see me at all because I've got glass in front of it and it's got stuff on it, and all they're seeing is, so I could get them where they're really. Their guard is down.
Mm.
So you know who that is? Monica Lewinsky.
I thought so. Yeah. She was happy to
be and talking at the same time. I mean, after what she's been through, nobody has been through such shame sledding. She has. That's my pal Micheline Thomas. I shouldn't tell you who they are. I'll make you guess. Who's that?
The woman who started Ms. Magazine.
Gloria Steinem. Very good. Who's that?
No clue.
Glenn Ligon.
Of course.
And who's that? You don't know who that is either, right?
I'm pathetic.
Lady Gaga.
Of course.
Well, I got her because she didn't know that I could see her, so it was like I'm giving away my secrets in case I'm going to shoot one of your people watching. So that was one room. And I think that's it. That's it.
No, that was fantastic. Here, why don't you bring the screen back to us both, and I'll turn my camera on.
Okay, let me get rid of this. Okay, is that it?
Do that. No, you got to return the screen. Maybe I can do it.
I can that's my cam. Okay.
I can do it. I can do it. There you go.
Okay, perfect.
So no, that it's wonderful that you share your process like that too. Most artists hide their process the way Coca-Cola hides their secret formula.
Well, I wanted you to see how much work goes into these. I mean, it's just the difference between this and what we're so used to seeing is, people buy paintings like $300,000, $400,000 paintings from an iPhone photo.
Yeah, no, it's true, and and of course, the art market must seem awfully strange to you, given the fact that it's treated you wonderfully recently, but it also ignored you, the very same person for so many years, and so you must have an attitude about the art market, though,
I figure that.
I mean, you must have a.
Well, I figure the
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The bush paintings are going to look amazing in 10 years. In one big room, since nobody bought them, and everybody sees my work later. But it's sort of.
Well, I mean, I think what's great about the bush paintings, of course, and we're going to end this in a second and just go to our Zoom with the graduate students. But in the same way that you were responding to, okay, what can we take that men do and do that from our perspective as a feminist, and of course the bush paintings were perfect for that, right? I mean, so. how many men have made those kind of photographs, and of course the great Courbet painting, which was reviled in its time, of course, right? I mean, and it's still
big dick and pubic hair was considered vulgar. Like David, the statue of David, he doesn't have a big dick. That was considered vulgar. So it's like nobody painted big dicks or pubic hair. No pubic hair, no armpit hair. I could find a handful of artists that have painted pubic hair. And it's time, You know
Well-
what we call someone who says they're not a feminist?
No.
An asshole.
Well, that's a perfect way to end our public conversation here. Thank you very much. So we're going to log off, and you're going to log back on to the other Zoom address that you have. Okay, I'll see you
Okay.
on the other side.
I'll see you in a minute.
So thank you all very much. See you next week for Tony Ausler. That ought to be an interesting one. We'll be back at 5 o'clock Eastern time for that one.